We love you guys. We do. We have taken some of our students to the art gallery, and they've designed and they actually have designed some pictures from the art gallery and utilized with our transition year program. So we love the art department, and they're giving us space to run our TU program. But just giving anyone the opportunity. So we'll have, make sure that not just on our website, but maybe on the general JSU website, that y'all know it's in Ramona Wood, and each room is a different class. And so the elementary content block, they're the ones that do the science and social studies and math, and they have all kinds of things. They've made the lit block. They have, all kinds of children's stories. I mean, it's fun for you to come see. And then we're usually down in the basement. We're special ed, but we set up, and we heard all these general ed students who don't know what, they come down and they say, you gotta go down there and see this stuff they're doing. And so we set up the Arctic animals, and we set up, like Dr. Beard said, the card shuffler is really unique because it's just a basic, anyone seen a battery operated card shuffler? Mm-hmm. Okay, we make that switch accessible. The only problem is you have to find a way to push that button that normally you push with your finger, but if you don't have the access, you can use the switch. And sometimes whatever we have tried to keep it down, it gives eventually, so we're still working on that. But I actually found an article from the Wall Street Journal talking about how playing cards, just regular playing card games, teaches math skills to kids. And so I have that there. And so Dylan demonstrated how you can attach a switch to the card shuffler. And I think we had regular cards in there. Sometimes I put, like for Halloween, I put the Halloween Snoopy Uno cards or whatever. But again, just something basic. And by the way, I found that at a thrift store for $5. Sometimes you can find all kinds of wonderful things out there that people, maybe they bought for someone who was disabled. Or, we learned in special ed a lot of things from, it seems like every time that we have a lot of veterans that come back with disabilities, they create things for them that comes to special ed. Well, I also think that people who work with the elderly, they get a lot of good ideas from special ed to use with the elderly. So it kind of goes in a circle here. So maybe someone had that for someone who couldn't physically shuffle the cards, and they got tired of it and got rid of it. Anyway, I got it. And so, it's just the idea that our undergrads, and by the way, that's the math skill standard, regular standard, and then for those students who have intellectual disabilities are on an extended standard. It goes along with an extended standard. Counting, numeral identification. I mean, you can think of 100 things you can do with cards. And this is the group. They were very proud of themselves. And we're proud of them too. They continue to learn and grow. This will be the group that will go into the severe setting next semester, and they will be taking these iPads to utilize, and the switch interfaces. Like our block 3s are out there now. Like I said, I've got 2 of them checked out now. And we just, we came up with a system. Our secretary, Mr. DuPont, came up with a nice form they fill out, give their student number and driver's license, and we let them take it. We want this stuff out there. We don't want it sitting in a closet gathering dust. Just like we don't want teachers out there to put their stuff in a closet to gather dust because either A, they don't know what they can do with it. So, then like Dr. Beard said, well, what if you don't want to buy a $75 switch or you don't have the funds? How can you make your own switch? And I'm going to let him take over and talk about how he trained these 2 guys. And this was the first day we tried this. We had seen some ideas on the internet, but we never tried it. So this was the last day of class. They finished everything. All projects were done. All grades were in. We were just kind of needing to wrap up. And we brought this stuff in our classroom and said, hey, we've got an idea. We might be able to build a switch. Anyone interested in trying it? There they are. And this was after class was over. So.
And this is that old soldering iron I was telling you about. But what we did was we found a way that you can take these things, you can take push lights. these. I think this one works on occasion. I think I fixed it. And like I said, sometimes it works, and sometimes it pops up. Anyway, what you do is you peel the back off, and you can get really cute ones, by the way. What you're looking for is this part here. This is the on-off switch. It's just that little thing right there. Goes in this way. These are those lights. You can leave the thing hooked up so the light will work if you want the light to come on. I find them terribly bright and terribly irritating, so I always cut that lead first. But what you want to do is cut the 2 leads that go to the wire and just hook your wire onto those. And it's really not that big a deal. The problem you're going to run into is if you get the ones that have the glue on, or the sticker on the back, I have to have a wire that comes out of here. And if it's, do you see how much room you've got there to put a wire through? I can't get the back on it if I do it this way, so I have to drill a hole in it, which is terribly irritating. So you can either, I think this one already had a hole in it. You can get the ones that you can hang on the wall. So they've got that's already a hole built into it, so you don't have to drill your own hole. Or you just leave the wires hanging out. This is the easy way. For special ed, we do it the easy way. But anyway, that's the little thing here. This is that's what you're working with. In fact, you don't even have to put it all back together if you want to. You can just push this button and make it work. But if we have kids with poor motor skills, they can't do that. Let's see, where are we? We've already stripped and done all that. This is basically the same steps we did on the other thing. But what we're doing now is we're hooking, what have I got that doesn't have wires on it? What I'm doing is I'm hooking these 2 wires onto that switch instead of what we did a while ago. And like I said, all of it's the exact same thing, except instead of putting this on the end, we're putting one of these on the end. These are connectors, I can know them. This plugs into your interface switch. This, all you do is you take these 2 wires. These were nice connectors because they had holes in them, and all I had to do is run the wire through and twist. Make sure this wire doesn't touch this wire. Make sure this connector doesn't touch this connector. And then you'll do the same thing on this one. And this will just plug into this. And now I've got 2 battery interrupters. But this one will go to the switch, this one will go to the battery interrupter, or to the thing, whatever you're doing with it, and you've got your switch. And like I said, some of them are real pretty. We found one that was a little princess crown, and we tried 4 or 5 switches out of those, and they just fall apart. Don't get the crown. The heart held up really well. The stars have held up really well. These hold up. Problem is they don't have holes in the back. But that's basically how we put these things together. Like I said, we got a $1.70 or $1.25 switch instead of a $75 switch. So we can basically make, 65 of those for the same price we get one of these. And it's really not that complicated to do. And like I said, most of the stuff we had laying around the garage. So go clean out your garage. In fact, some of my stuff was in the heading to the curb box. Don't ever leave for the weekend.
So, just some success stories. One of our graduate, we have a program where if a student has a bachelor's in anything but special ed, they can come back, get a master's degree, and also certification to teach special ed. So this was one of our graduate interns who actually did her internship, that's what we call student teaching now, down in Birmingham. at the Linda Nolan Center, which is an actual separate school for Shelby County for those students with more significant disabilities. She was in a classroom with 4 children, I would say ages 5 to 10, with significant autism. 3 were totally nonverbal and had behavioral issues, and 1 little girl had some verbal ability. But I was explaining to her how some of this worked, and she was trying to decide what lessons she wanted to do, and her first 2 lessons were fine, but she tended to feature the little girl who had more verbal ability, and I said, okay, your last lesson, I want you to utilize the 3 guys. And they're all on different levels, so she had to differentiate. And then she decided that she would use the switch interface. And I was going to let her, so she didn't have to check out the iPad. They did have 1 iPad for the classroom. So she did not need the iPad, but she checked out the switch interface, and I was going to leave the switch with her. But then while we were doing the paperwork and all, her teacher opens the cabinet, pulls out this wonderful, I don't know if you can see it very well, big smiley face switch, which is age appropriate for that age group. I would not use it with high school students, but it was very age appropriate for that group. It just been sitting in the cabinet, you know, not being used. So for her lesson, she mirrored the iPad. They were doing, I think, how to make things you would do, 1 step to make something for Easter or something, the Easter basket, what step 1, step 2, whatever. Anyway, it went along with some standard, I forget whether it was social studies or math, but she mirrored the iPad up to, they had, I think, a Promethean board, and she had the switch set up with the interface so she could move it around. They were at a kind of a semicircle table, and she could move it around from one student to the next, so when they hit the switch, not only did it change it on the iPad, just like when I mirrored it up there. So it provided the opportunity, again, for them to actually engage in a lesson, whereas in the past, usually when you have children who are nonverbal, they're probably the least engaged because it's so easy to forget about them. And these did have some significant behavior issues, but the real ones that get forgotten are the ones that don't have behavior issues, and they're nonverbal. And so to provide a way for them to interact. Anyway, one of the best lessons I have ever observed, one of the best. So it really turned out well. So our students are taking this out into the public school. But now, we're going to go back to your question. What do you do if you have some really great apps, but they're not switch accessible? So, excuse me. What I did was I started looking around, and essentially, are you familiar that we do have once a year a core conference here? So I attended a session at the core conference on smashing apps. How many of you know how to smash an app? Oh, okay. Well, essentially, smashing apps is when you take the features of one app and you import it into another app. And we call that smashing apps. So Mrs. Amy Weathers, who is now on our faculty at the College of Education, but then she was a teacher at Jacksonville Elementary, did a wonderful presentation on how to smash apps. And basically, if you can find a program that you are allowed to import pictures, then you can take screenshots from one app and you can import it into another. So with that in mind, I was I'm going to mirror this just a minute. We actually have this was one of our freebies, by the way, communication app. There are a number of communication apps out there that are switch accessible for basic communication needs. Those of you in nursing, a lot of times when nurses are dealing with stroke patients or patients who have had a head injury and cannot communicate verbally, you know, they might be interested in learning about what kind of communication apps are out there that could be downloaded on an iPad. But anyway, so what we did was essentially we took a communication device called Sounding Board, and Sounding Board is great. It's got all kinds of different features. Let me show this to you. Hang on just a minute. Here is my TV. So this is just some of the ones that come with this communication app. And again, it can be used as a regular, touch, and it will talk and say different things. I don't know if you heard that. The sound is a little low. My sound, is it mine or the TV's? Mine, sorry. So you have a lot of built-in communications, but also it enables you.
Image. Thumbs up. Uh-oh.
So it enables you to build your own communication boards. So our students have been building basic communication boards for some of the children that they are working with out in their practicum. But in addition, I said, okay, y'all, what about some of these great learning apps out there that are not Switch accessible? Because this is Switch accessible. You can go into settings and tell it that you want the switch scanning mode on, and I've got it for single switch. I'll put it on single switch, and this is how you change the timing. Right now it's set to rate 1.5. I think that's a good rate anyway. And then you go back and it is Switch accessible. But what if you wanted to utilize a learning app and make it Switch accessible? Well, you could go to the learning app, you could take some pictures from the learning app, and you could import them, create your own board, and it would look a little different, but it would still be a way that if some kids are on this learning app over here with a regular iPad, another child could be on the same type of learning skill, just a little bit differently. So they have been doing some of that with the Arctic Animals. Again, the regular learning app was a game, and so what we did was we took screenshots of the pictures that were on the regular learning app, where if you touch it, the animal makes a sound, and we turned it into a Switch accessible. And I don't think I have this mirrored yet, but just to give you an idea. So it makes the sound of the animal. So with this being Switch accessible, then you could utilize the Switch with it. So I did a little research, or actually no, I take it back. I asked my students yesterday, I told them what we were doing, and they found a few apps. So I found this really cute one called Accounting Challenge, and I did a screenshot and imported it into here. So the regular app, let me show you what it looks like. It's real fun. And when it said SMU, of course I was thinking, the one in Texas, but this is actually Singapore Management University of Accountability, and it is a game, and I am terrible at it because I don't know a lot of accounting terms. I also did some searching on nursing terms, anything. So if you have any kind of app where you can take, and when I took the screenshots, of course you have the whole big picture, but you can crop. So you only have the one choice, just like on the actual app itself. And this is taking long to load, but here we go. So I'm going to start financial accounting, which I am not good at, basic skills. Okay. So an investment of cash into the company will increase. Oh, that was good. So I could take a screenshot of this and I can import it. And I probably crop it to just one answer. So the first block might be the actual question, and then it would scan my 3 choices of answers, and then I just hit the switch when I want the right one. So again, let me show you what some of our students did with Smashing Apps. This is just they were sharing. I told them to do that with a learning app, any that they might use in their classroom that is not Switch accessible. And so they shared it. When they do something on the iPad, we mirrored it up on the TVs, and so they were sharing their learning app. So, yeah. 3.
The original app was called Little Speller, and it pulled up an image of a simple thing like a cat or a bat, and the letters were rearranged all over the screen, and you had to pull the letters down with your finger to get them in the correct spot. So in this one, it gives you an image, and the student will use the switch to click on the image. And they will hear what the image is, and then they go down with the switch and the spell the word. And on each different board that you create, it'll have two different images, but they usually try to stay in the same word that went to the only so many choices are there.
So it not only imports the image, the screenshot, but not only imports the image, it imports the functions of the.
No,
Okay.
you have to create a board to do either the same function, or if you can't, something that's similar. Because that was just on switch scanning, but they put the two pictures that, you know, you would choose which one and then you spell the word. And they created that with 6 squares. You can create it with 1 square or several. You know, they built that from just having added image. And you can either, you can import pictures, you can import the screenshots, or you can, I think, one of them there, they're utilizing some pre-made symbols to go along with the ones they imported from the Learning app, because I said, can you also make it for communication as well? Like if you're playing a game, what are some of the things you say? It's your turn, it's my turn, and, you know, good job, that kind of thing. So, but you can build as many squares as you want. And again, this is just a simple 3D communication app that allows you to import pictures. Any app that allows you to import pictures, you can smash from another app, you can do a screenshot. And what I do is, I do the screenshot, and then I crop the part I want. And so, but they were able to do this. Let's see, is this, did we do that? Okay. Yeah. So again, the top part is imported from the app. The bottom part is some communication pictures imported from a preset library. And you can take your own photos, you know, and it automatically goes into your iPad, so you can pull from those photos as well. And with older children, with adolescents, with adults, you probably want to go with the more realistic photos as well. Although there are certain symbols that we're used to seeing, you know, like the, you know, circle with the no on that. I mean, that's typical. But I try and, or we all try and emphasize age appropriateness, because there's certain things you're going to do with preschoolers and kindergartners that you're not going to want to do with older children. And again, in nursing, if you have an adult that has lost the ability to communicate, they're still an adult. Treat them like an adult, you know? That tends to be a problem sometimes, because we see it with people who are around, you know, children who have disabilities. They kind of discount it, or, you know, they think because maybe they have a physical disability, obviously they have an intellectual disability, and we need to talk to them like they're a baby. And that's not always true. In fact, it's never true. You shouldn't, but, and then this is our last one, just,
Our app was to do math. In the original game, you have a choice of what you want to play, and I chose one of the mini games called Basic Counting. You're given an image, and you have 2 choices of which you want to choose to tell how many you have. So we have the name of our game.
Basic counting.
Okay, and then you have your first problem. And so after they ask how many, you choose 1, 4, 2. And then you have another problem. And you have your choices. And you also have
in a minute. By the way, she is using, 2 years ago when I went to CORE, someone was demonstrating a wireless switch where the actual, you don't need the interface. This is the switch, but it's also the Bluetooth wireless. And my department head was very nice and bought one for us to use for samples. I can't let them check it out. But when I got it and saw how great it was, that's when I thought, oh, we've got to get something that our students can take out. So this is you know, a little bit larger and everything, and it is an actual, and it has textures, has bumps here and lines here. And of course, that's because if someone's visually impaired, they can tell the difference between which switch does whichever, so. So one side moves the scanning, one side makes the choice. And you can hook that up with 2 switches on the interface as well. In fact, you have a splitter, you can actually put more than 2 switches. Okay, you want to talk about just, I think we covered most of this, but
Yeah.
just, we've done multiple presentations. And I guess the last thing was, as I mentioned, I did an AT workshop for our graduate students who just about every class they take is now online. With the exception of the ones that are getting initial certification, we felt like they needed a few face-to-face. These are not ones that are already out there teaching special ed, that are getting a traditional master's. These are the ones that not only are they getting the master's, they're learning how to teach special ed, and we just felt like they needed some face-to-face. So I wanted them to have the opportunity to learn some of this, and so Dr. Beard and I set it up for my evening class, and then we asked some of those undergrads that you saw, and not all could do it because it was the night of trick-or-treat over at the TMD and everything, but a few, actually most of them helped me get it ready. And then we had one, Dr. Beard talked about the same thing he shared with you, with them, and then we kind of sat back. Whoops. Well, I did some demonstration, that's one of our graduate students, but then, keep going.
You guys have been-
And then we sat back and we let Ashley take over, and she did a wonderful job. And it was a great experience for her. I said, just think of it, you can put on your resume, when you're job hunting, that you, as an undergrad, train graduate students in assistive technology. She liked that idea, she really did. So we have had a great year, and we've enjoyed what we've done, and it makes us hungry for more. Like I said, we would love to be able to see what can be done with just the freebie apps and the ones that didn't cost that much, and thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could take all kinds of learning apps, whether it's elementary, high school, or even college standards, and find a way to build them so that they can be utilized by anyone, including those adults or children who need the switch accessibility. So make them switch accessible, regular accessible, and from out there. And hey, maybe we could sell them and make some money for the university, who knows? Please, do you have any questions? Feel free to come play. We like people to do hands-on and play, but we're excited with what's going on. Our students definitely are learning, our teacher candidates, we use the term teacher candidates for those that we teach as opposed to students for the ones that they'll go out and teach, but they're definitely learning the 21st century learning skills that they are going to need out in the schools. And we want to utilize the devices they have and the devices we have and get them comfortable and see how they can be used for learning and for teaching. And so we're excited, and anytime you want to come over and bring some students to see what's going on, or want to borrow one of our devices, if our teacher candidates don't all have them out there, you're welcome to come, take advantage of what we have. Dr. Beard, do you have anything else? Or?
No, I was just going to mention the app smashing that she was talking about. The students had no idea of what to do, and within a class period, she had them smashing apps. So it's really not that overly complicated. You know, we have been building these things, takes about half an hour for me to get good at it. So, you know, it doesn't take a lot of time, it just takes, you know, a little commitment. And we probably should have been committed years ago.
But I think it's the idea of, you know, again, they are so technology savvy, so much more so than I am, than probably we are, and you blink and the technology changes, and so they're comfortable with it, and, you know, putting it into their hands and saying, great, you use it for your personal use, now let's go use it out in the schools to teach. And so, you know, that's, I think most of them now, a majority of them, and every year I kind of ask is how much of your reading that you do is electronic as opposed to page print. And more, I think the percentage is getting higher and higher, that they are all reading more electronically. So, you know, it's out there, and we're excited. We're excited. It's much better to see this technology going to use for positive purposes, and we want to, you know, help them to do that. So again, any other questions? Yes?
Your switch, your Bluetooth interface switch that you have over there. So I saw you built a interface switch that plugs into that. Okay, I understand that.
Yes, we could.
But does the Bluetooth that connects up to the iPad, is that, it knows that that's actually a switch Bluetooth, or does it think it's
It
just
should, because this part is the part that goes in.
Yeah, I know. I was just wondering, my off-the-wall thinking was, well, if it'll understand any Bluetooth device, and that app will use any Bluetooth device, and all it is just an interrupt switch that goes in there, send a signal, not send a signal. You might not have to have a specialty
You may
Bluetooth,
not have to.
right.
That'd be good, because how much
Well,
is
I don't
this,
know.
like $150 or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
those were,
These little
Those out
deals
there.
were expensive.
Yeah, that's what I said,
Yeah.
but it sounds like it probably understands that that's actually a switch.
I think it
Probably
does,
is.
I think it does, but, you know, and the thing with the switch with the tap lights is it works a little different, because some things you can set up switch on, switch off, and that's what that is, that's the only way that will work. Whereas this one, it is switch on and it continues to go, so there are a little bit of differences, but again, as we get ideas for how we can continue to make these things accessible and to expand what we're learning. I mean, with our first AT workshop, we weren't building switches, we were just showing them the battery interrupters. We didn't know how. Now we know how to build the switches. Maybe the next step is, how do we bypass the $150 switch interface and just build our dollar switch and go right to the iPad? And I bet you it will be possible. Just gotta figure
Yeah,
it
I
out.
don't know.
Yes.
Could you tell us what is the number one benefit of using switches?
Number one,
Benefit of
benefit of using switches, well,
in terms of
if you
speed?
cannot, especially, you know, if you have a program where you do not have the physical capability to even, you know, the fine motor skills to utilize a touch screen, which is a step up again from use of mouse, because we used not to have even touch screens. I mean, that opened the door for a lot of individuals. And maybe they, you know, because of arthritis or stroke or whatever, they could no longer use a mouse. Now the touchscreen makes it easier. But even if there are some that, because of the physical disability and or cognitive disabilities, it's just not, that's not going to be their prime accessibility. And it limits what they can do. So it's, and again, the training with the cause effect, why use the switch on the dog? You've got a switch like this. Well, not all battery operated things have a simple switch like that. I mean, and even this is harder than just pushing. So for a lot of children, how many of us learn by doing? You know, how many of us learned things by doing, hands-on, making mistakes, you know, from the time we were babies? Well, for a lot of children who don't have the physical capability to actually learn by doing, this provides them the opportunity.
So I try to understand the concept, but So it was like, number one will be providing accessibility.
Accessibility, yes.
Number two reason will be providing, encouraging engagement. Okay, so that's top two, right?
Yes.
And then I understand this is an ongoing project, but have you ever tried to measure those two concepts you are saying, like accessibility and also the engagement, the level of engagement? Have you tried to measure that by using data?
No, but that sounds like a great research project. I'm sure there are, there have been some researches. Unfortunately, when you are dealing, especially with the small percentage of population, then you don't have a lot of, opportunities for research, and your numbers are limited. When I did my research on teachers' use of assistive technology with students with more significant disabilities, I started out thinking I could survey teachers within a local school system, and this was up in Virginia. Before I was done, I had to cover the whole state just to get enough numbers to have something that was significant, because I had to get over that 30 mark, and it took forever. Because some school systems may have one teacher when I first came to Alabama, I was the only teacher for Etowah County that had students with significant disabilities. I had them from age 5 to 21 in one classroom. And you want to talk about having difficulties with age appropriateness. Now we're better. There are more special ed teachers out there. There's more opportunities out there. But still, it can be done. And one of the things we would like to do